Welcome into our favorite segment of this Revenge of the Average Joe podcast. It is time for Deets Teach. This is the segment of our podcast where we go through a new betting tip every single week to make you a better gambler. It's what makes us a good podcast to listen to. We're not just out here selling picks, telling you who's going to win, who's going to lose. We're out here to give you tips that you can use from this week going forward. Some of these tips are simple, and they can take you from a 50% win rate up to a 55% win rate. This is one of my favorite gambling tips that I give to new gamblers. It's all about understanding how does Vegas set a line, and what does the probability of that line mean to you as a gambler. Let's get right into it. Kyle, load us up here. Understanding the odds, where do you draw the line? Get on in there to the next slide for me. So how does Vegas come up with money line odds for a game? Obviously, of course, they're going to go wherever the money is. We've talked about this before. They want juice on both sides of the line because they have that minus 105, the minus 110. The 5 or the 10 is where they make their money. If they have $1 million on each side of the line, they're going to get $10,000, $15,000. Just wonderful profit for them. Also, Vegas, of course, has to set that money line somewhere where they think, man, we need to set this in a real spot where we think one team will win at a certain percentage of the time. So when you see a team that's minus 400, the probability of them winning is probably about 80%. And we'll get into why that is, but that's generally what that means for a team. Next, we're going to jump into how do you understand this as a gambler? It's really important when you see a minus 400, minus 500, because not only in your head are you saying, man, I have to bet $400 to get 100 back. You need to say, there's an 80% chance that this bet's going to hit, not a 100% chance that this bet is going to hit. I see that with new gamblers all the time. Oh, if I just go for minus 500 every single game, minus 1,000 every single game, I'll never lose and I'll make money. Upsets happen every single week in the NFL. At least one minus 500 team goes down. Watch the NBA this season. It's been one of the worst for it. Milwaukee Bucks, how many times have we seen them go down early in the years? We learn about them. We learn as we go. How can we use this to our advantage? Well, we're going to get into that right now with some examples. So minus 400 odds. We talked about this. Bet $400, you win 100 every week. Sounds nice. Something that we've done in the past here. You parlay a couple heavy favorites. You're going to win a lot of games. Actually, with Vegas, if you win 4 out of 5 times, you're going to get $400 in wins, right? Because you're getting $1 each time. And then you lose one time, you're going to break even. So that means you have to be correct 80% of the time as a gambler with those heavy favorite games in order just to break even. So if you have to get 5 out of 6 right to make $100, it's easy to fall into this trap of, man, I'm winning every single bet. This is fantastic. I'm just going to make all this money. In reality, you're just risking so much. One loss is just going to peg you back all the way to ground zero. Let's take the other example, kind of the opposite of it. A plus 1,500 underdog. Rarely do they win, right? It's probably like a Jacksonville upsetting a Kansas City, or maybe a Jacksonville upsetting an Indianapolis Colts like happened at week 1.
Certainly.
Yeah. You only have to bet $100 to win $1,500. If you bet this 15 times or 16 times and you lose 15 of them, you're even. You only have to guess 6% correct, 6% correctly in order to break even there. Something that new gamblers really have a hard time understanding is, why would you ever bet an underdog? If I don't think that team's going to win, why would I pick them? It's not about picking the right team or the wrong team every single week. Games are so unpredictable. People get COVID. People get injured during the game. There's terrible ref biases in the game. If you can just find those upsets, those underdogs that you think are undervalued, hitting 6% is not hard. A monkey could do that. Genuinely, a monkey could do that. They could just pick between 2 games. They'll find that 6%. Let's jump on into the next one here, Kyle. How do we use this? Don't always bank on heavy favorites. I see people do this all the time. And in fact, to demonstrate why this is a bad trick, Kyle and I are going to go on a little journey. We're going to take $25 and we're going to bet it primarily on favorites, heavy favorites, and a parlay to try and turn $25 into $1,000. You're going to see us win a lot of bets, and we will post them on Twitter. We're going to win a lot of bets. We're going to make a lot of money. And when we lose, we're going to lose a lot at a time. I see new gamblers do this all the time. They call it beginner's luck. Really, it's just taking the heavy favorite and not understanding the value of picking an underdog like we talked about a couple weeks ago. Always talk about comparing win probability to money line. This is something I like to think about. If I have the Kansas City Chiefs, a minus 400 versus the Cleveland Browns, in my head, I'm thinking Kansas City's going to win that game about 95% of the time. So if I see it at minus 400, I'm saying I'm getting 15% value there. That's where we use the money line and the probability. You hear guys talk about that all the time. don't be afraid to pick an underdog. If I have to say anything out of this video, it works all the time. Even if you get it 1 out of 5 times, you could still be making money if you're taking the odds high enough. What do you think, Kyle? What would you add to this?
I would just say this really connects well with a previous Deets Teach, which I'm sure you can go back. I think it's one of the ones that we have on YouTube, actually, which really we were talking about the psychology of betting. And obviously, winning way more feels better. So the guy who picked 4 correct bets and then got 1 wrong, he probably feels pretty good about himself because he's talking to his buddies and he's like, man, nailed this one. Don't know why people said this was hard. Crushing it. Lakers got him again. Okay, all right. Now I got the Clippers. Now I got the Bucks. Taking the Chiefs this weekend. And it feels good in our brain to have more wins than the guy who goes to his friends and goes, yeah, lost that one again. Yeah, lost that one again. And obviously that's why unit betting can be so important. And that's why people tend to lose more of their bankroll doing this heavy favorite thing, is they go, well, I'm just going to take the sure things. Well, there's no sure thing in sports, right? And so I think it's important to stay mentally disciplined when we're using this in our betting going forward. Is you have to say, kind of like you said, you talked about the percentage of, hey, the Chiefs win that game 95% of the time, right? Okay, that's a huge advantage, right? 15%. Now, let's say that you run the numbers, you break down the game, and you say, hey, Cleveland wins this game 25% of the time. Even a 5% advantage over something like as smart and as good as Vegas is huge. And so it is still worth taking that money line bet if you think, hey, I have a 5% advantage here, and with what the odds are set at. So keep that in mind when betting the underdogs. It's the same thing. I know we talked about this one on a 2 podcasts ago, as well. Is there's chances to middle, all of those kind of things, and it's much easier to middle if you take long underdogs and then they get up early. Okay, well, now I have $100 that's going to win me $1,600. It's not super hard to find a way to middle that when the Browns are up 14-0 against the Steelers, or when they get up 21-0, and makes it a lot easier to do that. So I think this really makes sense, and I would just tell people this, even though you know the math, even though you know that it's the right thing to do and to stay away from it, it's still really tempting when you're on a losing streak to say, I'm just doing a sure thing. Right. I got to get a win on the board here. Let me, chase my losses and get this win. That's why you see a lot of times heavy favorites, the line moves the last game of the week where people are trying to make their money back. So if people get killed on Saturday, I guarantee you're going to see some Chiefs money line parlays flying out the door of Vegas. So don't get caught up in that. Don't get overeager with that. And I think this is a really important thing and ties together with the psychological aspect that you talked about a few weeks ago as well.
Right. I love the physiology you brought in there. With lots of wins, you're having the huge dopamine rush, right? You're getting up to $1,000 in your bankroll. And then when you're betting a heavy favorite and you're losing 40% of your bankroll in one bet, there's that huge gap in dopamine. So you're instantly trying to chase your loss. Vegas capitalizes on that. You make bad bets. You make mistakes. Learn from it. Don't do it. This is why you're a better gambler. Thanks for tuning in to the Revenge of the Average Joes. This has been Deets Teach.